Healthcare professionals kicked into overdrive when the pandemic began, and the fight is far from over. One area hit the hardest, New York. Joining us right now is Shannon Jackson, a registered nurse, and she's been one of the many nurses on the front lines in New York. Good evening, Shannon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me, or tell our viewers, what has your experience been like during this pandemic?
So first of all, I was in New York when the pandemic first started, and it was truly an experience, one in a lifetime, to happen. So when I first got there, literally our welcome to New York, I was one of thousands of nurses that had come and answered the governor's call. And the first thing that they said to us was, "Thank you for coming, keep them alive." There was over 1,100 ventilated patients, but not 1,100 ICU beds.
Tell me what you were seeing. What was your day-to-day?
Our day-to-day, we were in the full gear as it was. As you know, at that time, there was still so much uncertainty about the disease, the virus that was taking place. But there were people dying every day. There were nurses having meltdowns. There was a lot of stress and anxiety and pressure being placed, a lot of fast pace and go, and kind of figuring out things on the fly when everything first happened. It was almost like being in a war zone when we first hit there.
And was PPE an issue for you? Did you and your colleagues have enough of it?
We did have enough. I do know of one day, it was a weekend, where we were told that they were short on gowns. And so we had to be very careful and mindful on gown usage. But outside of that, the location that I was at in New York, we did have enough PPE, which was protective equipment to use for our safety.
As you know, I mean, the virus is raging across every single state at this current time. What do you want to say to the current administration?
Well, I'm so happy that we have a new leadership guard coming in, that I think that they're really going to take this to heart and take it very, very serious. It is very, very important that we're proactive and get on top of this, and that there's enough protective equipment, not only for the healthcare, but for the people, the patients, the visitors to be able to use, and to emphasize the importance of hand hygiene and social distancing. All these things are critical. But in addition to that, I think we have to go back to some of the foundation and talk about wellness as a whole, and getting resources into the communities that, as this virus is still raging as it is today, how can we help people be more healthier to combat either getting the virus or protecting themselves by being more well and whole?
As you know, we have already lost 250,000 souls to this virus, and the holidays are approaching. People are getting COVID fatigue. I mean, the number may rise. What do you say to that?
Hold on. I know you're tired of face masks. I know you're tired of social distancing, but it's so important. I even lost my own mother to COVID. I went and fought in New York on the front lines, came back here and working with COVID patients, and yet my mother, having a guest come to her home, and 9 days later, she died of COVID. So it's important that even though you're tired and you're fed up with all the different, as you call it, restrictions, it is going to save your life and the life of your loved ones. Continue to wash your hands. Continue to social distance. Continue to wear your face covering. And most of all, stay healthy of body. Be preventative. And that's why I created a wellness box that we're having for the holidays that have some key things to help people to start focusing on their whole body and wellness as they go forward.
I want to first give my condolences to you and your family, especially during this holiday time. But I want to ask you, what do you say to people who say that this virus is a hoax?
I talk about my own mother and how she was worried about me going to New York and fighting it and coming back. I went to New York, stayed there for over 2 months on the front line, came back negative and was fine and still fine. And yet my mother had someone come. I give that same story and that impassionate plea, the importance of it from a personal perspective, but also to let them know that it's important for themselves. Because if you have any pre-existing conditions, which many Americans do, you are already putting yourself at high risk. It's not worth the risk. It's better for you to stay safe for yourself and for your loved ones.
Well, I want to thank you, Shannon Jackson, for joining us. And I also want to say you are a frontline hero, and we appreciate everything that you are doing, putting yourself at risk to save us. And again, my condolences to you and your family during this holiday time. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was my honor.